Back in the day, mid 1960s through to I guess about 1985 to 1986, it was my heyday for buying vinyl records. I loved to go into the record shops and browse through all those seemingly endless racks. There wasn't any easy access. There was no internet to find records at the click of a mouse. It was a physical thing. You went in the shop, you walked around, you picked up the albums or singles. It was a voyage of discovery. You might find something you'd been looking for a good while, or even come across old beloved friends. Or even, on the very rare occasions, unexpected treasure. The album cover back then was a band or musician's calling card, an introduction. And the great ones for me gave a little hint, a little taster of the soundscapes within. Somehow the great album covers captured the music in a picture or image. So let's have a look at some of my favourites. Now the first one is a bit of a cheat. It's two albums together. It's the Beatles 62 to 66 and 67 to 70. The first cover, the red cover, shows the boys in 1963 leaning over the balcony of the EMI house in Manchester Square, London. The picture was also used for the Beatles' first album, while the 1967-70 cover picture, the Blue Album, was shot in 69 for the projected Get Back project. Same location, same angle, with the Fab Four assuming exactly the same poses as in 1963. Now in 1973, when these two albums were released, the Beatles were bigger than ever. Everybody and their uncle hoped for a reunion, but I think we all knew deep down in our hearts it was never going to happen. So these two pictures are kind of tinged with sadness. It's great to see the boys when they started in 63 and their transformation 6 years later. And while the music on these four vinyl albums was unmatched, it was peerless, fabulous music. It's all tinged with sadness knowing we would never hear music like that again or see pictures like this again. Now from 1972 we have The Magician's Birthday by Uriah Heep. At the time of this album, Marvel Comics were all the rage. Spider-Man, Thor, Hulk, Silver Surfer. Every newsstand in the country stocked comic books. And some of the artwork was stunning. You had these fantastic artists like Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, John Romita and Barry Smith. Now in rock music, you had Roger Dean producing all these otherworldly science fiction, sword and sorcery covers. And this for me is one of Roger's finest. The Magician's Birthday was based on an unfinished short story by Uriah Heep's keyboard player and guitarist Ken Hensley. But the band were kind of rushed back into the studio to capitalise on the success of the previous album, Demons and Wizards. Therefore Ken didn't have the time to fully construct the concept. And initially I didn't think it lived up to the brilliance of Demons and Wizards' fantastic album. But over the years, The Magician's Birthday has grown on me, and I think it's up there with the best that Heep have ever done. But take a look at that cover. The two wizards representing good and evil, about to fight in the magic garden. From 1976, Hejira, Joni Mitchell. The album is based on a series of road trips Joni took around America in late 1975, early 1976. And as she says, it's the sweet loneliness of solitary travel. One of my all-time favourite covers. It consists of 3 black and white photos superimposed on each other. The background is Lake Mendota in Wisconsin after an ice storm. On top of that is an image of Joni. Again black and white, she's in a black beret and black cape. She's icy cool and detached. Superimposed on that cape is the highway spreading out into the distance. That monochrome cover mirrors the sparseness of the music contained within. Sometimes it's only Joni on guitar and vocals with the addition of Jaco Pastorius on bass. It captures Joni's endless roaming to find love and meaning to her life as she journeys through those cold winter landscapes. Black Sabbath, Volume 4. The iconic image of Ozzy taken at a concert in Birmingham Town Hall back in the early 1970s, just standing there flashing the peace sign. Now that's one of the all-time enduring images of heavy metal, heavy rock music, and it's a classic album to boot. For all of Ozzy's crazy antics, you had a bunch of fabulous musicians there, and they hit you with one classic song after another. No messing about, no frills, it does what it says on the tin. Black Sabbath, Volume 4. If Only I Could Remember My Name, by David Crosby. I must have looked at this cover 1,000 times. Is the sun rising? Is it setting? Is the expression in Crosby's eyes sadness, trepidation, hope, regret, introspection, looking back to the end of an era, or looking forward to a new beginning? The album is far and away Crosby's best solo effort. It's great from top to bottom. Highlights include the venomous What Are Their Names, the beautiful Laughing and Traction in the Rain, but it's the last 3 tracks, the song with no name, Orleans, I'd Swear There Was Somebody There. They all have wordless vocals, where Crosby, with the help of Joni Mitchell, layers harmony on harmony on harmony to hauntingly strange but beautiful effect. And it's these last 3 tracks that elevate the record, in my opinion, to classic status. If you've never heard this album, please go out and have a listen. If you like that San Francisco, West Coast, psychedelic rock, pop of the late 1960s to the mid 1970s, this is for you. It's a very ignored album, even though it got to, I think, number 12 in the Billboard charts. A lot of people have forgotten about this album, but it is up there with the best albums that the late 60s, early 70s ever produced. Next up, Neil Young, On the Beach. This is probably Neil's most enigmatic, surreal album cover. There are links to J.G. Ballard's novel The Drought, on which the cover also has a Cadillac half buried in the sand. Neville Shute's post-nuclear apocalypse novel On the Beach. You could look at the newspaper headline, Senator Buckley calls for Nixon to resign. You could also delve into Ballard's connections with the surrealist painter Salvador Dali. And why are the beach table and chairs facing away from the ocean, while Neil has his back to us facing towards the ocean? You could spend hours researching all of this data, and there's plenty more if you look into it. If you look at all the imagery in that cover, there is so much going on. And like I say, you could spend hours delving into all of it. As you could the songs inside. They're surely Neil's most ambivalent sets of lyrics. They're all open to the listener's interpretation and open to whatever connections he or she wants to make. Never has angst, depression and loss sounded so alluring. World is turning. I hope it don't turn away. On the Beach is a very beautiful but very strange and a very haunting album. Next up, Roxy Music's first album. The group's name came from Brian Ferry going through a list of old cinemas, and Ferry picking Roxy because it had a resonance, some faded glamour, and didn't really mean anything. But after learning of an American band with the name Roxy, Ferry changed the name to Roxy Music. Those early Roxy Music album covers looked like they'd come straight from a Vanity Fair photo shoot. You kind of knew the music inside was going to be glamorous and very cool. Roxy were a strange blend of all kinds of styles: pop rock, glam, art rock, prog, soul, you name a genre, and somewhere in Roxy music you could find it. This album is regarded as one of the best debuts of all time. The cover features Carrie Ann Muller, who went on to marry Chris Jagger, who had a brother called Mick, who had some sort of semi-famous beat combo in the 60s and 70s. Back in North London in the 1980s, I did some work for Carrie Ann and Chris, and I can't speak highly enough of them. They were absolutely wonderful people. And Carrie Ann told me at the time that the Hollies song, Hey Carrie Ann, was written about her. Mr. Lovepants, Ian Dury and the Blockheads. I love this cover. It never fails to bring a smile to my face. And the record isn't half bad either, with Ian's clever lyrics and character tales backed up by the UK's best funk band, in my opinion. The cover was designed by Storm Thorgerson, and I'm sure you've seen his work with Zeppelin, Sabbath, Peter Gabriel, but most famously Pink Floyd. Here's Storm on how he came up with Mr. Lovepants. Raconteur, humorist, art teacher, rock and roller and bon vivant Ian Dury employed us to design an album called Different Strokes, but he wasn't very enamoured with any of our suggestions and dealt with this disappointment by telling us he'd changed the title to Mr. Lovepants at the last moment. What do you think? He asked with a big grin. As I walked down his front steps, it struck me, literally between the eyes, that Mr. Lovepants was not a human, but a dog who panted heavily, namely a boxer who wore boxer shorts. Ho ho ho, job done. The shorts had to be anatomically designed, as one might imagine, a boxer dog being well hung, as they say. Custom-made shorts had to be worn on the beach in Bermuda, of course, as in Bermuda shorts, and decorated with triangles, as in Bermuda Triangle, of course. All this word association was right up Mr. Dury's street. David Bowie, Low. The cover photo comes from Nicholas Roeg's film The Man Who Fell to Earth, where Bowie plays Thomas Newton, an alien who comes to Earth looking for ways to help his home planet. Bowie said it's a visual pun, meaning low profile, though producer Tony Visconti says it was partly a reference to Bowie's low moods during the recording of this album. Again, it's another cover that perfectly captures the music within. Bowie looking cold, icy and detached. Side 1 of Low is made up of what seems like almost half-realised songs, fragments of songs. While one reviewer wrote at the time, Bowie the Chameleon on side 2 of Low achieves the ultimate change. He disappears. Low is a must for any record collection. Horses by Patti Smith. They often say this is one of the greatest album covers of all time. Patti in white shirt, black jacket slung over her shoulder and a black ribbon around her neck, looking like Keith Richards' younger sister. The shot was taken by her friend, Robert Mapplethorpe. Mapplethorpe took 12 shots, and around the 8th one he just said, I've got it. Patti asked, how do you know? Mapplethorpe just replied, I know, I just know. Patti's record company, Arista, wanted to mess with the photo, but Patti wanted it put out just as it is. Patti describing the shot as a mixture of Baudelaire and Sinatra. It was a complete departure on how women singers were portrayed at the time in the mid-70s. And if the cover was groundbreaking, the music was just extraordinary. Sharp, basic rock and roll with tinges of reggae and free jazz, all laced with Patti's attitude and swagger and her stream of consciousness lyrics inspired by the French poet Arthur Rimbaud. And it was all captured perfectly by John Cale's supreme production. Even after almost half a century, Horses still sounds fantastic. So there you have it, 10 of my favourite album covers, and if this video does well, I will be doing part 2, part 3, etc., because there's plenty of great album covers out there, and I really enjoyed doing this video. So please like it, please subscribe to the channel, and we'll see where this one goes. Thank you, please stay well, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.